Call to order the Planning Commission, regular session, Cape Charles Civic Center, 500 Tazewell Avenue, February 6, 2024. Roll call, please.
Grossman present.
Ashworth present.
Holloway present.
Smith present.
Wrights present.
We have a quorum. Can we all stand? Well, wait a second. Before we do that, I want to welcome our newest member, Elizabeth Libby Wright, who has been appointed to a 4-year term that commenced November 1st, 2023 through October 31st, 2027, which was previously held by Michael Strub. So welcome, Libby. Thank you. We have a good group of folks here, but at the same time, I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you
Yes.
to Mike Strub for his unwavering dedication in volunteering for this town over the last decade, if not longer. So yeah, and tenacity. So thanks to Mike. He was a great member of the commission, so thank you. Okay, at this time, number 2 is invocation and pledge of allegiance. So we stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any mentions on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda format and meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the consent agenda of the agenda format and the approval of the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Okay. Unanimous. Number 4, public hearings, we have none. Number 5, citizen comment period for any item not subject to an advertised public hearing. Do we have anybody signed up? How about anybody from emails? All right. Number 6, unfinished business. None. Number 7, new business. Review bylaws. Planning Commission number 1, Planning Commission bylaws adopted October 5th, 2021. So we had from our previous meeting minutes that we wanted to have the chairs identified, the Planning Commission chairs from their own ranks to the HDRB, the HARB, and the DZA.
Which
And
we do.
which has been added.
All right, so the one comment I would have is we have 2 appointments
That's
to
right.
HARB.
That's right. As a matter of fact, it says that, and we do have 2 appointments. So,
We apologize for that error. Shows for 2 representatives.
of course, I don't know why we have 2. I don't know what the rationale is to having 2. They rarely meet, but anyway.
And I guess, Katie, do you know from their bylaws whether they require 2 of us from Planning Commission?
They don't require anything. They accept the appointments as was created by the ordinance.
So is that something that should be
They
taken up
don't
at
establish
town
how they make
council?
their own appointments. That's all I'm saying.
Is that
Okay,
something-
but all I'm saying is, we could live with the words one.
Right.
The ordinance
But-
is what dictates this.
Oh, that's what I was asking. So the ordinance will say two from planning commission? Okay, okay,
Okay.
that's all I wanted.
Okay, any other comments on this?
I'll make a motion that we accept the bylaws with the revision to section 5-4.2, with two representatives to HARB.
Do I have a second?
Does that mean, now that you've seconded the motion, does that mean you're also accepting the electronic policy too,
No.
as an appendix?
No, I was going to do that
That's number
separate.
two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor and a second to amend the bylaws to show that it has to 5-4.2 to appoint two members to the Harbor Area Review Board.
Before we vote, now that she's bringing up Appendix C, the bylaws make no reference to Appendix C.
They're just
A and-
attachments.
Well, A and B are referenced in the text.
you know.
Do we
Right now,
need,
I don't know if you're going to accept it.
well, that's what I was saying. So are we going to have to come back to the bylaws to add a sentence in there?
We will add a sentence, just adding an Exhibit C.
Right, okay, that's fine. That's all I want to know.
Okay, so we have, I've said that, so are we ready to hear the question? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Unanimous, thank you. Item 2, addition of remote participation policy as Appendix C.
Yeah, concern this is coming from state code. I'll make a motion that we adopt the language shown here as Appendix C.
So, can I
Wait
chime
a
in?
second. No.
Okay, no?
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay.
But I have a question.
We have, now we're open for discussion.
Okay.
You first.
So, as typically the offending member here, because I have a lot of work travel, it does concern me. I have a commitment to the planning commission to be here, but the meetings get moved frequently. And because the meetings get moved, and I make sure that I'm here the first and the third weeks out of every month, if the meeting gets moved to the second week, it is very hard for me to reorganize all of my travel. A number of those trips are overseas, to then move all those travels to make this meeting. I can always attend electronically. I always make an effort to do that. It would help if we had Zoom, so I could zoom in and see everybody and actively participate in the meeting. So it concerns me, if I'm limited to two, I can't miss any of the
Well,
rest of the year.
25%, 2 or 25% of the meetings held in a year.
25% of 12 monthly meetings is 4.
Well, no, monthly meetings, because you can have more than one meeting in a given year,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But it's 25, they relaxed that, or I believe they added that particular requirement because of some of that concerns, but it is 25% too.
Okay, and so
Go ahead.
following your logic then, does that include all the extra meetings that, like, Bill and I attend as part of the sign ordinance meeting or planning sessions or?
No.
Okay. So,
But joint meetings count.
yeah. Okay. I just think it is difficult if we move meetings for me to always attend in person.
Yeah, and as I
I
said
wish there was a little
before,
more
I don't think we have any leeway here. This is coming right out of FOIA rules,
Okay,
so it's not as though we can propose something different.
okay.
And the biggest culprit is, you know, when a holiday falls on a Monday, or the election always falls on the first Tuesday.
Yep.
So, but you know, we as a commission can say, we're gonna meet. Some other people, you know, they have voting duties and stuff, so, but we can meet. We can meet on a holiday evening if everybody is agreeable to that, so.
Okay.
I'm not.
She has off.
She has off, that's right.
Yeah, she does, yeah.
Well, would this fit under a personal matter?
But that's, I can say I have a personal matter that allows me to miss, but I can't miss more than the meetings. Yeah.
And I think that was even added over the years to, before it was medical, you know,
Yeah.
on your deathbed and I can't, you know. But,
All
yeah,
of a
so
sudden I
they're
have
trying
COVID
to,
all
and
the
they're
time.
continuing working with FOIA. It's just constant number of changes being proposed. This is just the latest.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's-
So I
Then-
have an administrivia comment. The title of this appendix is Policy for Electronic Participation in Planning Commission Meetings. But yet, throughout, it's also called Remote Participation. To be consistent, maybe the title should say either remote across the board or electronic across the board.
We followed the text of the code language, and that's how they refer to everything as remote participation.
But do you see what I'm saying?
I get it, we just changed the title to make it really clear to everybody, that means electronic participation. So we can do
Okay.
either way. We can, in our title, we
nobody
can
else
call
has
it
any problem
remote
with it,
and then
that's
put in
fine.
parentheses electronic,
Yeah.
so people understand that's what it means, you can call in,
Okay.
yes.
Any other discussion?
Just note in here with regards to the personal absences, you know, we have done that at the council level too. But here, it's where you're located and the reason for your personal issue. That gets recorded actually in the meeting minutes. So it's just a note.
So the last line, oh, that's Article 11.
Yeah, this is
Amendments?
cut and pasted into the middle of our bylaws.
Okay, I was like, wait, that doesn't, because it makes it look like,
That's right, yeah,
okay.
that's in their bylaws.
S-
All right, any
so-
other?
So I'll amend my motion to add allow the, adding of a statement in our bylaws referencing Appendix C.
Okay. So, we have a motion, and now we have an amendment to that motion to add Appendix C to the bylaws. So, do I hear
Second.
a second? So now we have any discussion on that?
Bless you.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to approve Appendix C and to amend,
No, we got to do the amended motion first.
okay, that's right. So, because that's what I just said. So, all in favor of the amended motion,
Aye.
say aye. Opposed, say nay. Okay, that passes. And then the original motion to approve Appendix C to the bylaws. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Unanimous. All right. New business, item B, appointment by the Planning Commission from within their ranks, a member to serve on the Historic District Review Board, HDRB, said term as PC Planning Commission representative to the HDRB will run concurrently with the Planning Commission members' term of appointment. Okay, so, we mentioned in the bylaws that we have a member that's on the BZA, and we have two members that are on the Harbor Area Review Board. And we have a vacancy on the Historic District Review Board. So,
Does everyone know who serves on what board at this point?
Yeah, your report,
RCA.
your
Jim
report.
is on BZA, Shannon and Bill Ashworth are on the HARB.
Okay.
Mike Strube was filling in the Historic District.
and of course, we have,
And if you're not familiar, Libby did get appointed as an alternate by the town council to serve on the Historic District Review Board, and she's been attending those meetings since about October?
Did I hear her say she volunteered?
I don't think I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose.
so,
Well,
we,
we can't do two of them. So,
We can't do two of them,
yeah.
because the HARB is so strenuous.
yeah. Well, I don't know if that's, I
I
don't,
didn't think we could.
I don't think that that's a true statement. I don't sit.
Libby, is that true?
HARB is coming up to be strenuous. Get ready.
Yeah.
Planning commissioners cannot be on have two, other boards, right?
It's not official, we've done it
Okay.
in practice, but it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did not say that in the statement.
The only exception is you, because BZA
Yeah, right.
does have the
Right,
requirement.
Yeah, so you can't
If
be
you're
on
the
anything
BZA,
else.
You can
but-
only be on one other board, and that's planning commission.
Yes.
Other than that.
Maybe that's what I remember.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was the other side.
So, nobody has come forth to say they want to be on the Historic District Review Board. We do have a vacancy, we do not have, we still have one individual that's, has health conditions, and I believe eventually his name's, somebody's gonna apply for that, or what?
We are actively recruiting and advertising to fill that vacancy, the remaining vacancy on this board, which previously was held by Dennis McCoy. And he has made it very clear to us that he is needing to
Right.
step down due to his health issues. And maybe someday in the future, he could reapply and come back on
Right.
board if the town council so wishes. But we are still working on that, and town council is accepting applications, they need to schedule interviews, et cetera, so that's just in the works. I know Libby could do the job.
What the heck? Okay.
So is that a volunteering again?
About as volunteering as I can get.
All right,
We all stepped back and she stood still, so.
well, this is quite the first meeting for
I
you.
know, I know.
So thank you, Libby. Thank you. So,
Well, I'll make a motion that we nominate Libby Wright to the position on Historic District Review Board.
Second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to elect Libby Wright as the Planning Commission member on the Historic District Review Board. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
And
Ayes have it.
thank you for that.
Thank you, Libby.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Libby.
It just makes a lot of sense, because she lives in the district, so.
Right. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
I mean, I would do it if I could.
All right, moving along, item 7C, 2022 and 2023 annual report. So,
Are you going to present anything?
I'm
Or-
just making sure everybody's up, I know Bill is still scrolling.
yeah,
so-
I'm just, I was,
Okay.
let you
I will
take
I will
over.
do this. So, one, I apologize that this is a 2-year report. They're not meant to be 2-year reports, they're supposed to be annual reports. My office, and me in particular, was negligent in getting this done last year for a variety of reasons. So with that said, we have done a 2-year report. This actually followed what we had done 2 years ago to bring us up to speed in getting the reports done. And we did change this format just a tad differently because we felt it's a good historic document for us to reference and use. So we gave a lot of detail about the types of zoning text amendments that we pass through the system so that we can reference them a lot easier. So that's what I have for you. If you accept or want to make any changes or edits to this, that's fine. Ultimately, this will go on to the town council on your behalf as a presentation. That's it. That's what I got. And I should note why there's some color in here, why there's red. Again, we wanted to just close the gap. What did town council do on each of these? Since you actually only give recommendations, we wanted to follow all through and at least close the gap. Did things get adopted, not adopted, or what happened with it? So that we're not trying to trace that 5 years from now.
No, this is an excellent report.
It is. I make a motion that the 2022 and 2023 reports go forward to the town council.
My second?
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the report and forward on to town council. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just had a comment. Is the intent to have this posted on our websites, on the planning commission, once town council adopts?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Unanimous. Thank you. Item 8A, report of officers and committees. Sign subcommittee continues with review and discussion of proposed sign ordinance, section 12, planning and zoning director.
Well, I'll jump in first before Paul may take over. But from our last session, we had gotten through the very first residential table, and then we stopped, and we had asked Paul, since he'd done a yeoman's job of going back and ensuring we incorporated all the changes appropriately into that chart, we asked him to do the same for the other chart for each zoning district. He went above and beyond board, as we love him to do. So Paul and I have talked a little bit about this. So before I get into his actual report, from the actual tracking document, the red line version, that does reflect all of the changes that were made up through that last meeting, with the exception of the charts. I basically am crossing them out, and if you agree to tonight's work, the chart work that was done by Paul would become our new charts going into the document. But that's all I've got to lay the foundation, and I'm really gonna turn it over more to Paul, if you'd like to make the presentation of how he's done this. I did tweak it a little bit from how he gave me all the documents, just to kind of put pictures to the appropriate zoning areas we were talking about, our zoning districts, so. And I don't want anybody to take offense who may have read this or seen it. Everything he's highlighted in yellow, I think, were questions or comments he wanted to highlight or make or get a decision reached on. He occasionally did put in some observations and comments, and I didn't edit out all of his adjectives, so I hope nobody takes offense to any adjective he used in describing a particular sign. And with that said, Paul, you're up.
Okay.
I can't.
We'll have to come back and talk through the ordinance itself, because I even have, the trouble I had with this is as you go from table to table, back and forth, and then back to the text, all of a sudden, things get out of line, so I, made some notations back in the text area that we'll talk to further. But what I did was, I went back even for the residential, and for each of the districts, I went around town measuring signs. I did it in the cloak of darkness. I was caught once. Had to explain what I was doing. But, yeah, what I really wanted to do was ensure that we didn't get too strict in our criteria and I wanted to make sure I knew what signs were presentable for us right now. And if it's presentable, well, then we should adopt that or even be more flexible from it. So that was the whole premise. I was going around taking pictures of various things. So I went and adopted the table format, and we'll just start with the residential district, and we'll refer to some of the slides as we have to fill in criteria. So I'll start with residential flags. We had flagpole size there, which I felt is meaningless for us to set. There was a couple flagpoles that I came across that are actually concrete. Okay, others are, metal. I have a table there that says basically the size that we had, 8 inches or less, for higher, taller flags, and it depends on the thickness. And let's get out of the business of dictating, right, the flagpole. So that was the first column in yellow there. I stole some words from the county with regards to the location, since that was more appropriate for that particular designation. Any questions on that one? Okay?
Here are your examples of your pictures, I'm trying to.
Yeah, go ahead. There's pictures. We have typical flag poles, a number of flags you could see. We had only one flag pole, but we allowed up to 3 flags. You could have 2 right on your flagpole and the third one off your porch. So we felt that was adequate. Temporary signs, we agreed that would split that
Can we
out.
stop there
Go ahead.
and see if we all reach agreement on
Okay.
each column, just to make sure we're okay?
Okay?
So, thank you, Paul, for putting this together. It's incredibly helpful, and as I sort of cross-reference the table with the draft that Shannon and I had, and Katie had put together, I noticed, I came across some questions and perhaps just some inconsistencies that I'm not sure that the table 100% tracks the draft ordinance. And I was just wanted to just raise a couple of questions. I may have just overlooked some language.
Well, now that you brought it up, that's a good
Yeah.
point. And I had a conversation with Katie. How much is duplicated between the table and the text? Where I felt too, going back to the text, some of that stuff, in my mind, should be eliminated if it's in the table and clearly stated.
Yeah. Some of the language in the table is not mentioned in the text. And again, this could just be an oversight on my part.
But I think that's what Paul's saying. If it's in the table, it doesn't need to be in the text.
That's my feeling.
And I agree with Paul.
One
We don't need
location.
it in 2
Right.
places.
I don't agree with that, because I
Okay.
think you always want to be able to cite to the language in the ordinance
This
when you're
will be
looking
the
to the table. I understand,
the
but,
tables will be.
for example, under size, each and total for flags, it certainly in section 4.2 says that flags for which a permit is not required can be 24 square feet in size, but it doesn't say anything that I could find in the ordinance about the total number of flags that you're allowed in a residential district. It just says 3 in the table. The maximum height, for example, it says the maximum height for a flag is 25 feet. But again, the only place I could find a limitation in the ordinance on the size of, and this is under section 5, prohibited signs, 5.5, are freestanding signs more than 10 feet in height. We crossed out the 25. So this is where I just had some questions. Do we need to just drop some new language in the ordinance, which is easy enough to do? Because I just think, you want something to be able to cite to in the underlying language and make it consistent. If we don't, we can just take out the limitations that are, or the language that's contained in the chart to make it consistent with the ordinance.
But the charts will be part of the ordinance.
Yeah.
They're part of, it's called section 11.
I understand, but when you
and
have
That's a section of the ordinance.
but why would you have language in the chart that's correct with regard to 24 square feet, but then there's nowhere in the ordinance there you can find a reference to 3. Why wouldn't you just make both of them consistent?
Because they could vary by zoning district, some of those criteria.
Then you include that language in the zoning district and in the ordinance.
But Bill, I think what Paul is suggesting and Katie and I are suggesting is we would scratch the 24 square feet out of the language in the ordinance because it's in the chart. So there's no
I
duplication
understand. I
in either
understand.
place.
But why wouldn't you have it just consistent in both places? Why not?
Well, I personally, when I've written documents, you only try to, you don't duplicate stuff, so when you change something somewhere, you forget to change it in the other, and then you drive inconsistency. So I'm proposing, and that's even, take it even one step further, in the subsequent tables, I've added the definitions underneath the headers that would then allow us to decide whether or not we remove them from the text, because that's where they're residing. But that's a decision that we have to come to as a group. Identify it one place and eliminate duplications.
I think anything that makes it easier for the citizens of the town to read it and understand what they're allowed and not allowed to do is what we should do. And I think it's easier to read it in the table and to understand it in the table than in the text of the ordinance.
Then you have a table. That's what the table's for. Then they just go right to the table.
Right.
There's nothing confusing about, like in section 4.2, saying, and shall only be allowed 3 flags per property, whatever you say.
But what is the purpose of repeating? I don't understand, other than,
Just so that if, you know, I'm just saying if there's any need to cite to a specific, because it just seems inconsistent to me. It seems that some of the language here you can cite to, and there's actual language that's drafted in this, and there's some that aren't.
correct. And
Okay.
that's what I
Well,
would
all
offer,
right.
going back to the text and eliminating any duplication if you agree to what's shown on the table.
So, for example, on section 4.2,
Right.
Rule 2, that would just be deleted if it's in the table.
Okay.
And that's
I-
where it gets very
I-
tough to
I think-
follow
I
this
think that's-
inconsistency-wise. I was getting crazy.
Yeah.
Concentrating on the table and then going back to the text, and I really
Making sure they
go back
agreed.
and say what's eliminated.
Yeah, I guess, so, I mean, but don't you feel that, like, you need at least some part of the ordinance that has places where you define all of these different terms? I mean, look, like you have, for example, like illumination under temporary on-building permit site that says, or on temporary other, that says none. But 8B says that all permitted signs are allowed to be illuminated. So are we just going to strike out 8B? Is that the plan? Are we just going to try and incorporate everything
I
into
would
the
say
chart?
incorporate everything if you've caught inconsistencies.
Okay, then then that's fine. I mean, I don't think we're going to be, okay, then we won't be left with much of the sign ordinance other than the definitions, unless you want to try and incorporate all the definitions.
When I was going through and lifting the definitions into the tables where they apply.
Right.
Okay. I would offer that they would come out of the definition section, and it would go from 30 down to 10 definitions that are still needed because it's used in the text somewheres. Okay?
I have a question in the table, under column 2, under flags. Is that, and this is under a residential district, a 25-foot flag? Is that,
25-foot flag pole.
but that's not what that.
That's not what that
says.
says. See, this is what I'm getting at.
So,
It
I
doesn't
think-
say that in the table.
Well,
And
it's
if-
easy enough to add that to the
Yeah,
table.
really. Let's go through and incorporate what your concerns are
No,
in the
that-
table.
And-
that's the only one there.
That's
I thought
fine.
the others
It's not a
made
problem.
sense to me. It's like, but is that meant as to be a flag or a flag pole?
It's a flag pole.
Okay,
Okay.
Can we just add pole there now?
Well, now you have to kind of be careful with that, because there's a definition of pole sign, right? And I don't know if we're going to get, that's sort of included in the list of,
The other districts.
in the commercial districts, right? And it does not, and it says it's a sign that is mounted on a freestanding pole, right? And I don't know necessarily
But this
if
isn't a
flag is
flag
mount-
column, so I think we're getting wrapped around the axle over. I
No.
think it's,
No, I don't think we are. I mean, I think that there's a lot of overlapping definitions in this issue and in the ordinance and in these two charts. And I think if you don't have a document to refer back to get clarity on what we mean when we say, you know, for example, I mean, I'll flip to the commercial section. When, you know, when we're talking about the difference between a freestanding sign, and let me see if I can find it, or a freestanding pole, which we use in the document, but there's no definition for freestanding pole, and a pole sign, or a temporary sign. I think it's important to have a document to refer back to. You can have like all of the size requirements and stuff like that, but I think if you're trying to cram a number of overlapping definitions into a chart, I think that could be difficult, could be confusing. And I agree with you on, like, simplicity. I think somebody should be able to come to the chart and say, do I need a permit? No. Right? You don't need a permit for non-commercial flags. You need one for commercial flags. How big do they have to be? What does the size have to be? What's the setback? Great. But I just want to make sure we're sort of cautious that we're not trying to sort of jam a lot of overlapping language into just one small chart. That's all.
All right, so I guess we, as a group, need to decide how we're going to go forward, okay? I am a proponent of eliminating duplication. That's as simple as that. And incorporating what I need to in the table where it's most visible.
I agree.
Okay, so, let's take that, let's just take a vote voice on that, on if you're in favor of eliminating duplication. I mean, we gotta get there somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
So, I'm in favor of eliminating duplication as well. So we have 3. Anybody else? 4.
I'm leaning your way, just, what I get nervous about is if you end up with a lawsuit, you know, somebody puts
Right.
a flagpole up and you don't have a exact.
Right.
I mean, I'm coming into this late, obviously. I mean, the purpose of the table is just to make it simple.
Yeah.
And
the table is part
and your
of the
criteria is right there for somebody
But look-
that says, I'm going to hang a flagpole up, and this is what I am limited to.
Though that's fine to have the criteria, but I think like the underlying language, the definitions, the sort of specifics of the statute that drive the chart are important for people to be able to see and review. That's all.
Well, I don't think Paul's saying get rid of that, but he's just saying don't put 24 square feet and 3 flags and 25-foot flagpole in 2 places. What you have in the chart doesn't need to be duplicated in the ordinance. If there are things that aren't in the chart, they would remain in the ordinance.
So if I'm an aggrieved property owner, and I'm taking issue with any provision that's in the chart, how am I supposed to cite to that? What's the citation?
Well, the site is
Tell me
gonna
what the
be-
citation is.
The citation is going to be section 4.11, or wherever this first table resides.
It would be
Yeah.
12.1. And where in 12.1?
And Katie, this is
I
gonna
don't know what the
be-
section number is yet. I haven't done the section numbers for this.
But the section and the table in the section
Yes.
will be part of the ordinance.
Yes.
Correct.
So-
It would
Correct.
be-
It's not
so-
like-
Correct.
Yeah.
It's part
As
of
it-
the
As
ordinance.
it stands today, so if we
But
follow
it-
what the section number is today, If somebody didn't like the residential district signs, they would say, I'm appealing section 11, section 11A, flags, and whatever issue they have under the flags section. That is an appealable issue. That's zoning language, yes.
Okay,
And they'd do the same thing if, again, if we're fleshing out this table to be all of these columns and rows, they would be able to appeal any element of this that they felt. The decision from the zoning administrator to either approve or deny a permit was not in compliance with that language.
okay.
Yes.
I think there is a lot in here, and,
And I
I'm
don't think
just-
Paul disagrees, nor myself at this point. We have reserved another meeting, a work session after this, so that we can have one more read through, but let's see if at least we can get through these revised charts,
sure,
which is where we have not made our way all the way through.
sure.
so
Could we
far.
get through the language of the charts?
Yes.
Okay, great.
That's the
Great.
goal
Let's
for
go through the
tonight.
language of the charts.
Okay.
Okay, great.
So for flags, I've heard 25-foot flagpole, right, requirement to add a flagpole in there. Any other comments on flags?
So change 24 to 25. So that's height. Maximum height 25, sorry, yes, got it.
All right, the second column deals with temporary, we talked about.
Can I have a question on the language? The citation to the U.S. Flag Code, Title 36, Chapter 10, 174, right? So that's a federal statute that applies to the U.S. flag and how you illuminate it. And it recommends illumination during darkness when a patriotic effect is desired, right? Well, there's lots of flags other than U.S. flags. I mean, is this the appropriate citation for this section? Or can we just say illumination, because it's not just U.S. flags we're talking about, right? We're talking about the Steelers flag, we're talking
But
about,
no other flag has a requirement for illumination other than the US flag.
that's not my point. My point is, what is the standard for illumination on flags in the residential district of Cape Charles?
We've had none, and in our prior draft, what we had settled on as a subcommittee is required by law.
Right,
That we
right, we didn't,
referenced.
As
we really
required
didn't
by
come, now, we could just drop 8B in there, which says, all signs that are permitted under this statute may be backlit, internally lighted, or indirectly lighted, unless such lighting is specifically prohibited. But I just don't know if this is the right citation
That's
here.
not what 8B says. 8B says all permitted signs may be backlit, internally
Yeah.
lighted, or indirectly lighted, unless such lighting is specifically prohibited in this article.
I thought that's what I just said, I was reading right
You
from it,
said
yeah.
that they are,
All permitted signs may be.
maybe.
Maybe.
Unless prohibited elsewhere in the
I
article.
said that, I said unless specifically prohibited, yes, maybe.
So I think that gives a general requirement for people to understand, oh, here's the general rules, but then go by zoning district to find the very.
But that's very
specific
different than what the
design.
flag code says. The flag code says may be illuminated during darkness when a patriotic effect is desired. That's a little different.
Again, but the clause says, unless specifically prohibited in this article. So if there's other language that trumps it, that says, maybe you're not gonna be able to eliminate it.
So I
There
can't,
are rules that we're
okay.
telling you apply in the residential district or other.
So I
zoning
can't put a light on my flag if, unless there's a patriotic effect desired? It just doesn't make sense.
districts. So,
That's the recommendation, you know?
Yeah, I know, it's what-
I hear what you're saying, and,
Let's make it consistent. Let's just put in 8B, like we do for all the other ones, or none for the other ones. I'm just saying, it doesn't fit right.
I personally like having the reference to the flag code because I did not know it. And I think as Paul in his other capacity as a councilman can attest, there was some recent chatter in the community about US flags.
Oh, yes.
And it's displayed in the community.
It's fine for US flags. It's not fine for the guy who has the Pittsburgh Steeler flag on his front lawn.
So what are you trying to let the Pittsburgh Steeler guy accomplish? Or gal?
Or anybody else. I just want
Do you
it,
want them to be able to
of
illuminate the
course,
flag?
yeah.
It doesn't say they can't, and in 8B, it does say you can't, you're allowed. to illuminate a sign.
So my point is, put a reference here that's consistent with the other illumination standards in the statute. This reference to the US Flag Code seems totally out of place here.
Well, I was just following your draft that says as required by law.
Right.
And I wanted to go find that law, which I did.
So I think any flag ordinance has to have that US code in it. We would be, I think it's a mistake to not include it. You could say US flag code, da-da-da, and 8B.
But it only applies to US flags, and why is it necessary to be here?
Because
Well,
there are certain standards you have to uphold with the United States flag. It can't be tattered. It has to be a certain material. It has to be brought in from the rain unless it's nylon. It has to be illuminated at night unless you are going to take it down at sunset and raise it in the morning.
I couldn't agree with you more, but I'm not talking about just the US flag. This column says flags, all flags.
So, Katie, why don't we, if we could change it to the American flag shall be whatever according
American
to
flag
US
should-
code,
should,
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, follow that code.
Yes,
If we do that,
absolutely,
then does that
absolutely.
satisfy-
I have no
okay.
problem with that at
Then
all.
can we move on after that
Can
then?
we just add US in front of flag code for number
It
7?
says US flag
says
code.
US
No, it
flag
doesn't.
code.
It says flag code, US code title. but
No, it says US
Oh,
flag
that's
code in the
that's
chart.
Paul's
That's in the
note. Up
footnote.
above, it says US flag code.
Yeah.
And then it has in parentheses 4, it gives you the full citation.
And if someone read it, they would understand it was for the
But
US flag.
I'll say my piece and that's it, but again, this is confusing because we define a flag as a sign. Flag is included in the definition of sign. So if somebody looks at 8B, they're going to say, I have a permitted sign, I may do this particular illumination. But now I have to read that against what the US Flag Code says. It's two standards in the same statute. Nobody knows which one they're supposed to follow. So keep the US Flag Code for the US flag, code US2, and for all other flags, 8B.
Or we could say at this point, no, you can only eliminate the US flag,
Or,
no others.
or you can do that, or you can say, no flag shall be illuminated except the US flag.
You could say that.
You could say that.
Well, then you're probably the guy with the Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Right.
You can't, it's.
If that's the
it's
decision
gonna
you
be-
want to make.
It's gonna be set, so.
But US Flag Code doesn't apply to his flag. It applies to the US flag.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
if he illuminates that US flag, guess what else is gonna be illuminated?
I understand. Right.
So,
Okay.
I think what you said initially, that the US flag follows the US flag code 4, and then other flags 8B.
Yeah.
What other comments on that column? We may get through this by next year, but
I don't think so.
Bill, you're all set for first column?
I'm good.
All right, great. Let's move to temporary signs for building permits. Comments there? We had talked about this kind of last time, we didn't change. All right. Moving on to our temporary signs, this is where we'll have some inputs. We added, or I added, one that dealt with subdivision plats, lots for sale, and that came from the old Coast Guard plot of land there by Washington Avenue. So that's one of the reasons I added that particular one. The other one I wanted to talk about is window signs. Let's just get over that. Anybody has a problem with the 12 square foot max 1 and the 16 for,
I don't have a problem with it.
okay, the other, third bullet,
So
Go
before
ahead,
we,
go ahead.
before we just jump off on subdivision plots, I just want to make sure everybody understands, it's not going to happen often, But yeah, you are having it right at this moment with this one subdivision over,
Yep.
on Washington Avenue. There's a chance we could have other subdivisions that come along depending on the residential, how the railroad property ends up coming out, et cetera, et cetera. So just,
Yep.
everybody's okay with us adding that sign versus, it's not uncommon. That's the first thing I want to say. You won't necessarily see this in Bay Creek, but for us, this would be useful, yes.
Yeah.
So people are aware which lot is being proposed, because it's hard to say, well, it's lot number 5, when all you have is a big tract of land.
Right.
I just want to make sure everybody's okay with it.
Yeah, what I'm gonna have trouble is people are gonna hang signs up, and then we're gonna find out they don't meet the sign size. So that is gonna be a challenge to get word out to people that, hey, there is a sign ordinance, and please look up, signs, and make sure you comply. But I can just see us running after these.
I will throw out to you, probably the only thing I would add, and I didn't think about it till after we talked, Paul, because we had this a lot in the county structure. Some subdivisions didn't get developed. Housing market collapsed, things didn't happen. We ended up, I know in my prior place of employment, we ended up putting a time frame for how long those sorts of signs could sit out there. And we did it based on a 25% sale value. So as long as 25% of the lots sold, then that sign had to come down at that point. Because then you started getting markers for which lots were
Yeah,
sold
right,
and get an
right.
identification. And then that made it easier for when people were driving through to figure out where might buy a lot. But otherwise, I can tell you at the county level, we had some of these development signs up for 10 years.
Yeah, and I don't, other than that development, it may occur eventually in the harbor area, but right now I wouldn't get too lost
Right.
in this.
So,
The window signs I wanted to talk about, and we'll talk about it again on the commercial side. The obstruction of 50% for a window sign as a temporary sign, kind of like, I don't want to get into, again, policing by walking around town looking for signs and windows and measuring and worrying about over 50% and whether they're there for, the duration of 30 or 90 days. We could kind of get too involved, and I don't see it as being a problem. But again, I want to open that up for a discussion to see whether or not, because we have the same thing in commercial. In commercial, you got people putting their names in script and all that stuff, and to calculate 25% or whatever we have there, that's where I started stepping back and going, let's think about this a little bit more. We have a real estate sign example there that's sitting in the window, that's sitting there the whole time. Now, it's not taking up 50%. But again, want opinions on how you feel about windows and whether or not we have to establish criteria.
Should we say something along the lines of not to exceed 1 or 2 total or 3 total? Because we don't want signs in every window. And I think this might lead people to think they could have a sign in every window.
Well,
You know
Paul
what I mean?
raises a good point in his pictures with regard to the realty office on Mason Avenue. They do have multiple signs in that window. They have a bunch of different,
Well, yeah, they have
Commercial
all their,
signs.
they put all their,
but that's
Yeah, so
commercial.
I-
That's commercial.
That's
Keep it
commercial.
as-
I know, that is commercial,
Hold
granted.
that for commercial
Yeah.
language,
Yeah.
but, because I have different thoughts there, but in our residential, as I'm walking around, a house typically, like a commercial environment, wants to have a presentable whatever.
Right.
Now you can get some screwball that all of a sudden does something wacky with all the windows, and maybe then the criteria is needed. But that's what I want, a discussion. Do we want something there, and now it's policeable? And we'd knock on the door and say, hey, you're at 60% there, or you're, 95 days.
I agree having it in is a good idea.
Having it,
I agree having it in is a good idea. I think we should put something though about total number. Because you could have somebody that decides they want to put a sign in every window.
okay? Others?
I think 50% of one window is fine.
Yeah.
But like you said, Shannon said, I mean, if you want to put a sign in every window, you're allowed to do it up to 50%.
Well, we can add total number with this.
Yeah, not to exceed 1 or 2 windows.
Is this for marketing, for, this is a
Any
vacation
reason.
rental, or?
It could be for anything, so you may wanna put, you know, Johnny's coming home in 2 weeks, or love the military, or I love Apple.
Yeah, that would be the only thing I would hesitate to put a limit on if they're a Yellow Star family. You wouldn't want to put a limitation on how long you could hang that in your window.
So I'm just trying to think of other things you might wanna, you know, put in your window, or here we come, here's election season, your particular bent of who you're gonna vote for.
The way-
You also mentioned when temporary, and you mentioned 30 days, 90 days. How are you going to police that? How are you going to know?
You'll have people watching.
Yeah. You're gonna have your neighbors ratting on each other.
That's correct, that's correct.
Wow, that's great.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, I just step back and go, is it a real problem in our neighborhood? And I just don't see it, that's why I laid it out there as the question, do we need a criteria? You're saying yes and limit it to 1?
Yeah, I mean, I'm leaning with you. I just think this has got to get into a can of worms. I mean, I have a less problem with this house is for rent. That sign is not
Right.
obvious,
Right,
it's, you know,
right.
it's not glaring at you. But if you've got somebody living in a house that's a little off base, I mean, I think you're starting to tread on some, you know, rights. Just, it's their property.
Well, the one picture that we had with the sign out in their yard, it's been there for a long time, with regards to the blue or the police, you know, supporting the police. Now, that's a temporary sign that would be limited to the max 90 days per year or whatever. Okay, so I pick it up and I put it in my window. Is that a problem? That's why I use something like that as an example. There's the example there. We would limit that ability to sit out on a lawn, but if I were to say, okay, fine, I'm gonna bring it in and put it in my window, it won't cover up 50% or 50% of my window,
Yeah.
I have no problems with that.
And just for, just referencing back to the ordinance, we do allow, permit not required, permanent window signs, right? So long as they do not exceed 25% of the total area. And Shannon, do you
In the
remember?
residential section?
It doesn't say, no, it's general, it's permit not required. A permanent window sign, provided the aggregate area of all window signs on each window or door does not exceed 25% of the total area of the window or door. So I'm trying to recall, first of all, what's the difference? I think we all know the difference between a window sign and a permanent window sign, although I think, yeah. But could you remember what why we settled on permanent window as to just a window and whether or not
I think we were
there's even a
thinking the
difference?
residential district, not real, we were thinking the commercial district, not residential.
Right, okay.
So again, what's the consensus for that third bullet? Either leave it and add to it or delete it.
I really don't wanna police temporary signs.
I think we should delete it.
I agree.
Bill, you all set? Libby?
So if you delete it, that means that no temporary signs are allowed in windows.
No,
It just doesn't call them out separately.
that's correct.
Right.
I gotta have a 12 square foot,
Right.
the way this is
Okay,
in my window,
Right.
Okay, okay,
all right?
all right.
Yeah.
All right, so that third bullet's coming out. All right, going down, height, freestanding, 30 days. Now, here, I changed to calendar year, and I'm thinking about that. our intent was 30 days, would then allow up to 90 within
Well-
365.
You've jumped over to column 4, permanent non-commercial, correct, Paul?
No.
No,
in
he's still in temporary.
Still in temporary.
Duration.
Okay. I just don't want to lose sight of the clause you put up under the heading.
Oh,
temporary,
we'll come to
other.
that, okay. We'll go back to that after. All right, so 30 days and the 90 within a calendar year I changed to, and then I'm thinking, okay, calendar year, so I can catch the last 3 months and the next thing I have 6 months worth of temporary signs.
Most people, though, are gonna want signage June, July, and August.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. So that's why I put calendar year, but made sure everybody understood people can play games with that. And even if I put 365, again, it comes down to policing. Oh, when did that sign go up?
I think calendar year's better than 365.
Okay,
Because you could say, well, my calendar year starts September 1st. Then, you could have, so I think calendar year's better.
all right, so in the 30 versus the 90, I'm not sure how to explain the differentiation between the two for temporary signs. We don't, so I have a temporary sign I want to put up for whatever in my yard. I got a max 1 square footage. What limits me to 30 or what limits me to the 90?
30 days, you could say 30 days per sign, not to exceed 90 days total per calendar year. Is that clear enough? 30,
Say it one more
30
time.
days
Well,
per
I
event.
think the intent, when we first put it down, and maybe the language isn't fitting, the intent was I can have a 30 days, I can come back and put a 30 days.
Right.
And
Right.
there's an interval between.
Right.
That's not what's stating, and maybe something is missing in the language there. 30 days with an interval, that's not really right.
What about if you said 30 days and not to exceed 90 days per calendar year?
Yeah, but that's the same thing. So what, I put a sign up, I'm gonna go with the 90 days. Nothing tells me to limit it to 30.
So your two biggest examples for temporary signs of this nature, yard sale and vote for this candidate. Vote for you for school board, or you for the town council or president. Think of those examples in yard sales. That's another big one, yard sales or estate sales.
Right.
How long do you want those signs up?
Well, we talked about this the last time, and it was also about, for sale signs.
And short-term rental signs, vacation rental
Yeah.
signs.
Well, that's.
I
we
thought
can
that-
Come
that's-
back and talk to that.
I mean,
Yeah.
that,
Paul's note up here, yeah.
But Paul said, yeah.
All right, so, but let's keep going with the 30 and 90. We need to differentiate what is the difference between, or we just delete the 30 days and say up to 90 days. That's what I'm getting at. I need something to clarify why the two durations are shown. And again, I think the intent was 30 days, it would be taken down, and there'd be some kind of time interval where the sign's not there. You can do this.
3 times, yeah.
Right.
so that seems incredibly confusing and difficult to police.
That's true too.
Incredibly difficult to police. You're gonna have somebody like, is somebody from the town gonna have a calendar and
They're not.
an Excel spreadsheet with each
I will
sign
say
for
that
each
if
property?
Somebody reports it, say, okay, well, we now have a report, and we will go
Right.
investigate it, and we'll document today's the date, and then if this is still there 30 or 45 days later, or if we can say, well, we saw that picture, or if they're advertising, somebody's running for office, they generally probably went up, when's your elections? May? I'll pick on the local elections. So you probably started putting signs up in February if your elections are in May. Yeah.
If they're still up in August.
Usually the calls start coming about 4 days afterwards. All those campaign signs are still out there.
So Paul's suggestion, I think I heard him correctly when he said, why don't just delete the 30 and say something like,
Or go the other way.
up to a
Delete the
total,
90.
Delete the 90.
whatever you want to do, up to a total of 90 days.
Well, Well, with 45-day early voting, I mean, my feeling is, you know, you've got all that time to try to influence people.
That's the
And-
biggest,
and-
that's the
and-
biggest issue of all of this, is your political signs.
So you've got, of course, this
Yes.
year you got three, but you've got generally the primary and the
Yeah.
final, so.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's 90.
Or just take out the 30 and the 90 and put 60. I don't know, I just found, when I read this, I couldn't get to understand and explain to somebody.
My only concern with the 60 is the for sale sign, and not in today's environment, when houses typically sell
Well, I
faster
have,
than
I
that.
have an
We have
exemption
something
to
for
that.
You have an exemption for
Yeah.
for sale signs?
Yeah.
Okay. Then
Yeah,
I,
we'll go to the notes next.
then I would say 60. I think it's 60 is fine. If we want to be clear.
60 days would cover voting. Really, it's 45, but, I mean, 60 would cover it, so.
Others chiming in here?
Gotta pick a number.
I can live with 60 in a calendar year.
I would prefer the 90 for the June, July, and August season,
What do you?
for the people who are
for
trying to
what?
rent their,
Well,
trying to rent
okay,
their
and then
places
we'll-
for
we'll have-
vacation rentals.
Well, that's
then
different.
Let's hold that, let's
Vacation
hold that
rentals.
thought, because that's going to be the next argument that we have.
Yep,
But remember, those signs are temporary signs under the
That's
statute.
correct.
that's right.
So we have to think about it in the totality.
So can we
Let's-
just talk
let-
about the elephant in the room rather than ignoring it?
Go ahead, go ahead.
So Paul has added, 1, include signs on property for sale. Vacation rental signs are prohibited.
And Katie then had a question, if that was to be agreed to, it would also have to be, or shown in the text on the definitions or something along those lines. But that was what we had talked last time, vacation rental signs. I wanted to be crystal clear, and we can talk about it, that they're prohibited. So that there's no dancing around when we talk temporary signs.
I mean, they are, those vacation rentals are advertised on the internet, all over the place. So, and that's probably how people find them in the first place.
Yeah,
I mean, so, yeah, they can come here, and there's only like two of the, maybe three, firms that have those signs. And in some cases, people are mistaking those for sale signs.
Oh, I did when we first moved here.
Because, you know, it's like, oh, it's a vacation rental. Oh, you're selling it because it's, you know, it's for, you know, I want to have it for my vacation. Yeah. So, anyway,
If we don't outright prohibit them, then they for sure need to be reduced in the amount of time they can be out. Because right now, they're just everywhere, 365 days of the year.
so what is the intent of the vacation rental sign? Is, I mean, you said the summertime, so June, July, August. But is it to catch people that are here and they see it and they can say, oh,
I like to go there.
that's a vacation, it's nice, I see it in person, and so then they'll investigate, but instead of doing it online, but, you know, why I would think that people would want to advertise their rental more so in the off-season than in the in-season. But
So as someone who does use Vrbo and Airbnb, as, I wouldn't want that sign in the front yard, because it just draws attention to the house as a easy prey for theft, or lots of other things. So to me, I understand maybe why they started to do it in the beginning, because people didn't know there was a lot of vacation property in Cape Charles, but now they do. Never once have I driven around a neighborhood in Palm Springs or whatever and been like, oh my God, there's a vacation rental, I'm gonna get that one. I look on Vrbo and I pick a house. So I don't know how much business, and they're competing against each other, so but I don't know how much business they're getting from the signs in the yard. I don't think any. I can't imagine any. I don't think we're going to lessen their business by prohibiting the signage.
Well, now the legality of this, if we have all these other temporary signs and we say 60 days, and
Well,
Yeah,
I'm gonna throw out the other conversation. Paul, you chime in because you're on this committee with me as well, which is the short-term rental committee, which is still not finished with its work product. One of the conversations that is still to be decided is, do we consider these commercial enterprises? Are vacation rentals commercial businesses? Happening in residential properties, but are they commercial in activity? And should that be some of our consideration of how we're viewing them and setting regulations governing them?
do they have to have a business license?
Yes.
Yes.
If they have to have a business license, then I would consider that commercial.
yep.
And we were considering, the subcommittee, to amend Article 4, home occupation, to include a reference to short-term rentals, so that's where short-term rentals would first appear.
And that's, I think that's how it's gonna end up coming out from the committee as a text amendment, zoning text amendment for this body and the town council to consider, is that's its placement in the zoning ordinance. I think that's where it's gonna end up settling.
So if that's the case, then there shouldn't be a rental sign. This is residential.
Because that's that's where our current ordinance says we don't do advertisement for home occupations. That's what's envisioned in this proposal as well. So I don't want us to spend tons of time on this issue because I think it may be taken out of our hands debating this once the short-term rental committee finishes their work.
Well, yeah, but it would come back through,
Yes, it would
Yes,
come
anyway,
back
so
through for
it's not as though
discussion
it's
again, yes.
going by us.
So,
So, again, I'm for leaving it as prohibited, and would have to come back then again to talk about the temporary days and whether or not we want to change the language there.
So Katie, can we ask that we have a lawyer review that?
review which?
To see,
A
are
lawyer will
we
review this
allowed
whole
to
thing when
say,
it's all said and done.
yeah, are we allowed to say vacation rental signs are prohibited? Or is that prohibiting, is that
Is that prohibiting
controlling
commercial,
someone's free
commercial speech?
speech
Yes,
or
it is.
blah, blah, blah?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is prohibiting commercial speech.
But we have the
And
right to
just-
set rules in various zoning districts. You
Sure
absolutely
you
have the
do.
right to do that. And we're in a
So did
residential
s-
zoning district setting rules.
So did the town of Gilbert. They could have set all the rules that they wanted, but that doesn't mean that those rules are constitutional or legal. That was the point,
So
that was
you
the
asked-
point of the Gilbert case. So you
Our
asked.
attorney will be
with-
reviewing the entire zoning ordinance before we finish. it.
So my initial take would be, yeah, exactly what Bill said. I mean, commercial speech, still narrowly tailored to achieve a substantial interest.
Yeah.
The substantial interest in this case would be, I'm not sure, aesthetics? Is that what it would be, aesthetics, whatever it
I won't
is?
say aesthetics.
But
It's,
we're
again,
still-
What's allowable, what we're saying is allowable in a residential
I'm not-
zoning
So
district.
I'm not
Bill,
gonna-
if it is legal, would you support prohibiting them?
No, I would not.
Okay.
No, because first, not based upon what I've heard in the past 5 minutes. So I've heard from 2 different two different points of view from real estate people. One of them has said, yeah, we don't get that much from the rentals. Other of them said, well, yeah, we love the rental signs because they're a gateway to get people to come and then buy in the community, right?
To come and buy in the community?
Yeah, to sort of visit, to sort of eventually buy a home in the community, buy a home in Cape Charles. I don't necessarily agree that people just find these places online. My mom has a place on the Jersey Shore. She wouldn't know, she barely knows how to turn on a computer, much less list her property on Airbnb or Vrbo, right? So, yeah, she relies on putting a vacation rental sign out in front of her house. When we had the subcommittee, the working group discussion as to what was the middle ground, how do we regulate the type of sign without regulating the content, the point we reached was there's got to be some limitation on the duration of the temporary sign. And we defined short-term rental, or we defined temporary sign to include short-term rental. That's why we thought during those discussions the 30 to 90 days was a reasonable accommodation where we're regulating all temporary signs for 90 days.
Except
And we're
you-
not
you
just
still-
singling
I
out.
have to be candid, Bill. Right now, you just said, I'd pick the 90 days to give them that commercial window that they're looking for.
No, I'm
So
applying it
That's
to,
tailoring a timeframe addressed to a commercial interest.
no, it's not. It's tailoring a general time frame to all temporary signs. All temporary signs, not based on content.
Well, if it's temporary, it's not my call to make, but I would put a shorter time frame if it's temporary.
Put a shorter time frame on it.
Well, see, then I would go back to 45 days with the election for primary, which is 90. It's up to them if they want to, how they want to do it, and the same thing with the days for a rental. I mean, because I could see people coming in they've heard about, some of the restaurants, they come in and they're driving through, oh, wow, look at that.
Correct.
Well, I can tell you that if this thing, when this comes out, and if we keep the number and size, there's gonna be a lot of complaining, because people are gonna say, you're limiting me in the number, if I wanted to have my delegates, if I wanted to have a sign for a senator, a delegate,
The
and,
president.
president, I can't do it. That's what we're saying. So,
We're not gonna make everyone happy, that's for sure.
On the flip side, they could stick it in their window.
Yeah, there you go. Each window.
Each window.
There is a way around this.
All right, so how do we want to move on with both the vacation rental and the time limit? Because we'll certainly, once we open up the public comments, you'll get there, but we need to formulate a recommendation at our
So,
level.
so my recommendation would be, understanding that we probably will be prohibited from including the vacation rental signs because we're calling out specific activity, with the fact that we're including signs on property for sale, and we need to let them have time, got voting signs, all these other things, I would say no more than 90 days per year. I think 60 days is too short.
Okay, others?
I agree with Shannon.
So that's 3.
so if are you saying also 90 days, that's all signs, temporary signs, so that it could be short-term rentals still?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm going to still fight to keep the prohibited short-term rentals, okay?
That's fine.
And we can elect to vote officially on that when the time comes.
That's
But right
good with
now,
me.
the duration will change to less than 90 days,
Less than 90 days.
all right?
It's fine by me.
All right, permanent, not commercial. Get a whole bunch of, the first note there was when it comes to certain entities within the residential, we'll leave it up to the zoning administrator to to look at churches, bed and breakfasts, directories, multifamily, what have you. It just, we can't not write around this or specific enough to capture all that stuff. So I'm leaving that up to the zoning administrator. Item 5, I want it to be clear, home occupations not permitted to have commercial signs.
Bless you.
That's just, again, calling out. 6 is the definition for minor sign size. And 7, talking art is not considered a sign. So that's what falls into this last permanent non-commercial. Any questions on that aspect? All right, so then we had 2 minor signs. I changed, when I went around, I went to a duplex, and I think that's the picture we have up there. You got more than 2 on one house, but again, it's a duplex, so I changed to, instead of per parcel, a building unit. So a duplex could double, you know, 4 minor signs. I exempted the historic as a sign. We want
Makes
people
sense.
to have that, right? All right, then I had here freestanding signs for multifamily sites like
Myrtle Lane.
Myrtle Landing. They're in residential, and so I wanted to capture that, and that's why I added that 3rd item there.
Yep.
All right, I think we talked about the remaining of that table. If I go through my observations, we've already talked about windows, we already talked about historic markers, duplexes, explanation why. We talked 90 days for item number 4, and flagpoles, we already talked. So right now, with this table is 90% there. We'll have to come back when we find inconsistencies.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, I think it's on the corner of Caswell and maybe Fig? I'm getting to the point about illuminating minor signs. It's a corner lot, there's a sign there. It's not in the front of the house, but it's right on the corner.
All right. Caswell and Fig?
I know it's Taswell, but I can't remember if it's Fig or not. Do we want to say those types of minor signs should not be illuminated?
What is the sign?
Well-
I saw it on the way in, and that's why I'm
That's, I
thinking.
think that's why I was saying none.
None,
right?
yeah. Okay, all right, okay.
Are you talking about the Big Street Inn?
No,
'Cause
no,
this is on the corner.
maybe that's it. Is it a B and B?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, then that is what I'm thinking.
All right, so then that would come back to note number 2, zoning administrator will take a look at,
Okay,
because I had also bed and breakfasts in there.
oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Right?
Yep.
And we may come across something, and just hold that thought. We allow the zoning administrator to do certain things here. I wanted to, when we go back into the text, open up the ability to have the zoning administrator deal with some unforeseen things that we can't fit in here, you know, have some language for that, but we need some flexibility
I
when
agree.
somebody comes and say, oh, I'm up 1 square inch over. It's like, all right, moving on.
Before you jump into another zoning district,
Go
I
ahead,
do
Nan.
want to, you mentioned art examples.
Go ahead.
And I, you and I had talked about this, Paul, and we had this conversation in our sign subcommittee. In the model ordinance, I think they included art as a sign type. We chose to strike it. And our belief, and I know we never talked about it yet with this group as a whole, we felt art should be a town policy, a town council policy, not regulated through a sign ordinance. We didn't recommend what that policy should be, but we think that should be one of the kickouts that come from this is to the town council, we think you need to develop a policy dealing with public art.
And I had a couple examples on one of the slides
Here I
of
come.
public art, so people understand
So you've
Yep.
got
the differdifferentiation
Mermaid,
between. Now, you could argue, I don't want a public art display like that, but that's for another discussion.
And it comes to bigger art, where you've got
Right,
a
right,
Neptune
right.
down on the
Right.
beachfront, you've got,
The dolphin.
But you could even
Dolphin,
say like
you
the
got other
little
things.
heron I have standing in my yard, like
Yes.
those kinds of things.
I thought you had all those flamingos in there.
Yes, yes, Bill, you got me.
so, and I didn't mean to overlook that when we last were presenting this, we just got awash in other conversational items, but I think, am I representing the committee correctly? We felt art should be a town council policy.
Yes.
issue.
Correct.
Okay, we're at 7:30, do you need a break, anybody need a break for 5 minutes, or you want to keep on plowing?
Keep going.
Let's
Okay.
go.
All right, so on commercial, a lot of same language, but again, with the commercial hat on. Flag poles kind of mimics what we have, would have to change the illumination piece to agree with our commercial language that we just had, right? And our maximum height is the flagpole. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Again, looking at leaving the definitions here, to me, helps. It helped me, because every time I'd look at something, go, okay, so what is that? A projecting? Oh, that's, no, this is where it would fall, right or wrong. You can change and say, hey, I don't agree what column it's in, but the definitions, to me, helped.
So my question on the definitions was, I put a chart together, and I wrote down every single type of sign that's defined in the ordinance.
I should have captured it all.
Okay, that's what I wanted to go
Yeah, I
over.
checked-
I'm not
I checked
I'm not
marks.
sure.
I
So
checkmarked all.
I didn't see minor signs
On
here.
minor signs, we said, yes, it's defined in commercial. Minor signs,
Where?
footnote number 6.
I'm not seeing that.
Right, okay, yeah. We got max 2 minor signs, but then the actual definition for minor is down in footnote 6.
Could we put the definition of commercial,
Or
the
the
definition of
footnotes.
minor with
Well,
all
we
the
don't
other
use
definitions?
minor in the commercial area. We haven't. I'm just saying.
That's my point, we haven't.
Well, tell me when we get there that this is where we need to put that in.
So roof signs are also not included in here.
And roofs are not permitted. So I'm not, roof signs in the language here saying not permitted.
Yeah, I don't think we want roof signs.
No.
I must have overlooked that. Where did we say that that's not permitted?
It would be under prohibited.
Yeah, section 5.
Section 5.
Signs on the roof surface or extending above the roof line of a building.
Yeah,
Where is that?
So that's under
Well,
C,
prohibit-
so section
prohibit,
5,
yes.
C, number 3.
Signs on the roof surface, I see, okay.
That's why I didn't include it
Okay,
here.
okay. And the same thing for vehicle trailer signs, right? We prohibit those as well.
Right.
Okay. What about illuminated signs? We prohibit those as well?
No, illumination is going to be part of your illumination here, right?
But there is a definition of an illuminated sign.
Yeah.
Is
and
that
that's-
different than illumination, or are we talking
well,
about the same
I
thing?
took it as the same thing,
Same thing.
right.
Okay, and then a flashing sign. I didn't see that
I
in the
took
definitions.
it the same thing as illumination, and the flashing was not permitted.
Yep.
Neon sign,
Didn't we prohibit flashing
Yeah.
signs?
Did we?
To a certain amount of time. I
Yes,
thought
we
I-
did. I'm sorry. We did. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we don't need a definition of
But
it.
there's this language that says, except where such signs are expressly permitted within the article. Is there any place where we
Yeah, well,
expressly permitted it?
keep your notes there, because that's where we have to go back and perhaps clean that up, because it is not discussed,
Right,
okay?
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so under freestanding, I put the definitions I felt were freestanding and monument. I didn't change anything other than wanted to question the permanent on-site 24 and only one. Off-site, I know we talked about this,
Right.
and we were limiting 3 signs up to a certain size. And as I went around the environment, I'm seeing perhaps signs larger than 6 square feet.
Yeah, there's one that's probably,
Those are on site though, right? Peach Street and Cape Charles Mini Golf, they're on site.
Those are on the site, so that's not off,
Those aren't off-site.
it's not permanent off-site, right?
Okay.
I'm not saying there's a lot of them, but when I come across some of them,
here,
and you'll get that in the harbor area where we have some larger signs. Your Main Street signs are not in the commercial district, but these.
well, one of them. Yeah,
The one by the hump is in Bay Creek's land, I think.
Right.
And you would have had to get
I did.
permission
We
with
did.
them. But all I'm saying is 6 square feet seemed small for
Small,
some of
yeah.
those. It's not like you run down the, and the Episcopal Church is located 1 mile down, those are small signs.
Yeah,
But some of these commercial establishments are a little larger, and I'm just questioning the
well,
6.
like the Cape Charles Mini Golf, that's on site though.
That's on site.
Right. So the other question I had, Katie, the language here under size number each total, I believe is taken from section 12D in the draft. Off-site premise permanent signs,
That's what we're talking about.
right, permanent signs.
yeah.
So, for commercial use. So is there such a thing as an off-site temporary sign for commercial use?
Yeah, that would be under temporary, and he's got it, off-premises sign,
Where is that?
under temporary.
Located
Column
on the-
5,
Mm-hmm.
off-premises sign, under
Right.
temporary signs.
Right, and how do we, but we have a different, I think it's a different, it's a different standard, though, under the size and number total.
Yeah,
Well,
because,
maybe.
But I'm saying, do we want to treat them the same or differently?
Oh, I think
Whether it's
differently.
temporary or permanent?
I think differently.
I agree.
Because if it's permanent,
Right.
like these look nice, temporary ones tend to be,
Right.
So here, we got some examples of temporaries that he gave us.
Yeah, do we have
Yeah.
any examples of temporary off-site commercial signs?
This one. Oyster Farm Farmers Market.
Right?
yep, and then all the tent signs,
Yes, all your tent signs at Localish Art, here's one.
the A-frame sign.
Yeah. We got several of the A-frame ones, sorry.
So I guess when I talk permanent off-site, 6 square foot is 2 by 3?
That does seem awful small.
That's like a sandwich board.
Yeah,
I'm not sure I would use AJ's, because that sign right there is because there's, street is torn up.
Correct. And
Right.
it may not be the right example, but this could be anything. So you
Right.
could put this on the corner of Fig and Randolph, and the signs that tend to
but
show
can
up
we go
there
to the
throughout summer.
permanent examples again, because that's the ones we're talking about
Say
right now.
that again?
I didn't have many permanent, but we were talking about commercial establishment one to put
You mean the monument
around, in
freestanding
Harbor,
ones?
you'll have that, for the yacht center,
Oh, yeah.
you have a couple, right?
That's a different zoning
One-
district.
Yeah, but it's different, but the thought is there. So 6 foot, I have no objection to increasing in size. Just tell me what number.
Well, if you had a 4x4, that's 16. That's not, that's about the size of the Cape Charles Mini Golf.
Yeah.
It's probably the same size as Cape Charles Main Street as well.
So somebody would have to then say, I'm going to plant that on somebody else's property, get,
So-
Permission.
Just you're looking at size, there's a 4x6, 24 square feet. You may or may not remember that sign, which is
Yeah.
Yep.
Randolph. That's a 24 square foot sign.
yeah, but I wouldn't go as large as 24. A 4x4 maybe is fine.
Yeah.
The other ones you
Right.
gave us are the Main Street. That was an 18 square foot. Okay? Another example was the Beach Market one.
That's on its own property,
Yes.
right?
But part of it is giving size.
Yeah,
dimensional
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
17, 18 square foot,
Yeah.
how's that sound? 18?
18's fine with me.
Others, great, all right?
That's fine.
And I'll throw out the last big sign you had, Paul, just so everybody keeps that one in mind, which was the Yacht Center one. Whoops.
Yeah, well, when we get to harbor, again, this comes down to.
Just to give you an idea of size.
Yeah.
That one was
yeah,
77 square feet.
Right, right.
Okay,
That
did you
sign.
get, what about the blue herring sign?
I don't know if you measured the blue herring
You
sign.
mean the billboard?
The billboard? Yeah, or one billboard.
The one billboard?
All right, so let's keep going. Freestanding, anything else then with regards to freestanding? The one question I had at the bottom was the shrubbery. I'd like to eliminate the shrubbery requirement. Sounds great. Every sign that it came across, even the town sign right in front of our offices has one little dead bush. All right? And sometimes it's nice, but right now it's, so shrubbery, I don't want to police. And there's a couple examples of signs freestanding that have
Right.
just normal grass.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with that.
I concur as well.
Okay?
For sure.
So everybody's good with striking the landscaping requirement around the signs.
Yes.
All right, going to window signs. This was really interesting, and what I did was then kind of develop slides that would help you by measuring various windows. Kind of fill in the blanks there. Let's get to the first.
So you have Ambrosia. Here's their window signs. You also have Bayside Chiropractic.
Yeah, so these are good examples on, if we set our criteria 25%, how am I going to measure 25% coverage there?
Yeah.
And this is a commercial establishment that wants to maintain professional commercial environment, right?
Yeah.
So are the eyeglasses above, is that art? Sorry, I'm kidding.
I love that sign.
So in that column, again, I would take out the
Continuous
window
glare.
25%, as we had done for the residential.
And then the other question, the other two examples you showed above,
Yeah?
is that truly a sign or letters on a window?
Well,
Because.
the
that's not
ambrosia
a-
is the sign, and then they're giving some other decorations. I wouldn't call those signage, that's
Right.
decoration.
But,
If I look over here, yes, Bayside Chiropractic is the sign, and the rehab laser, that's part of his business identity. But then now he's listed his name and hours of operation. Do I consider that a sign? I would think most people have hours of operation posted somewhere
Right.
on their doorway, telling people, I'm open now, or come back when.
So I'm trying to sell it, get rid of the 25% criteria and leave it up to the commercial environment to,
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree.
okay? All right, so now, if you go to the slides,
So we get rid of the 25% for the windows.
right, and if you go to the slide that has the permanent frontage wall sign,
Yeah, this is,
Give me a minute.
Can we, I have questions on column 3, the wall, window, and door signs, Katie.
I don't think you mean this one, Paul, but go ahead.
permanent frontage signs.
Door sign isn't defined in the ordinance. Do we need to define that, what a door sign is? Because I'm looking at the Ed Bull sign, and I'm trying to think, is that a door sign, or is that a permanent window sign?
well,
Yes.
the way we've defined it is a window sign is behind the surface of a window or door.
Right. So
Yeah.
should we just strike door signs, or do we need to define door signs?
Well, again, not every door is glass, so
Right.
it gets tricky on that one, because if they're glass fronted, people are using that and they're putting their signage inside the glass. There are
So-
others that have solid wood doors, or solid metal doors, or solid doors of some sort, and sometimes they're doing like maybe on the bottom half of the door, they may wanna put a sign there.
I think wall sign and window sign cover the door signs, because on the window sign, it says window or door, and on the wall sign, it says against a flat
All right,
vertical
so
surface.
what Bill is saying, take out in the title, wall, window, and take out door signs.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
That's fine.
I think that's fine.
Wall
Okay.
and window signs.
Okay.
That sounds good.
My next question was.
No, that's the only gimme I'm giving you.
And again, just to sort of giving notice to the regulated community as to what the rules are. It says permit required under wall, window, and door sign. But 4(9) does not require a permit for a permanent window sign. So do we want to make that distinction in the chart? Yes, for all window or window signs except for permanent window signs. Want people to know what the rules are.
I think I was about to say, I would say strike it out of 4(9), but you and I are gonna disagree over this.
But no,
I-
unless you want to say, unless the commission wants to say that a permit is required for a permanent window sign, because right now,
I'd
it's
say-
not.
I'd say no.
If we're not gonna say 25%, then I think we don't need a permit for a window sign.
That's good.
Okay, so we're changing permit required to no
Yes.
For window.
for window.
Wall, yes. Okay.
Yes.
So that needs to be in the chart. Wall, yes.
Window, no.
Window,
Okay,
no.
great.
Okay,
All right, so let's go to the slide that has,
this is the permanent frontage sign?
Yeah.
So-
yeah, it has a little table.
Oh, that side, okay, hang on.
Yeah, that's one, in the table above.
Yep,
So this is where I converted to be acceptable, and again, I'm guessing as best I can. I have a ruler, or a scale that I'm laying out on the ground and saying, oh, that's 25 feet long or whatever. But my estimate said for various signs that I have pictures for, Lemon Tree needed 2 square foot per 5 linear feet to be acceptable, okay? K-Coast was a large sign, 10.
it's up on the screen.
Ambrosia, 6.5. Popcorn, 6 3/4. Buskey's is very unusual at 15. And entrance to offices, 6.5. So that kind of tells you, pick a number to envelope. I wouldn't go as high as Buskey's, but I wouldn't say 10 or 12 to me would be fine.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If you look, the building has something to do with it. If you look at Buskey's, they specifically has the layout there for a sign.
Right.
So, but, so that, I think they were trying to get, it is Buskey's cider by the bay. So you got that big area, And so
You take up the
you
area.
take up the area.
I understand that, but I wouldn't allow every other sign that's coming in the future, right? That's already grandfathered. Coming in the future, my thought was envelope it with 10 or 12.
The only thing I might disagree on is because now Watson's is gonna have such a large area in front of it for the new distillery.
Yeah, but it's not, Buskey measuring the size, and I have the, you know, length of the building, that building is much longer than any other. But even so, being that long, given the size of that, just the lettering, not the sign, this is just the lettering, that's, I would have had to have the 15 square foot or 5 foot linear to make that work. I'm saying more reasonable is the K-Coast or just a little larger, making it 12. Because K-Coast doesn't bother me, even a little larger to envelope the others.
What,
Yeah,
and
Caicos.
what is Moonrise? That's a different thing. That's a,
They're an awning sign.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll get to that separate.
okay.
All right, so can we
Okay,
go with
so
12?
12?
Can we go with 12,
Yeah,
right? All right, so then what I found is side signs. 2 slides, well, I don't know if you have 2
What are
slides.
these?
later.
Side signs, did you
Yeah.
say, Paul?
Yeah, side signs.
Side of the
I've
building.
got,
Ah, so, I see, yeah.
Okay, it's up on there?
those are, well, one's, so I keep going until you get to the table. I have a table for that one too.
Okay, so just so everybody sees, you've had a side for Peach Street
Peach Street,
is there. Give me a second, Paul, I'm catching you. Front
Sidewalls.
wall.
Wait a minute, are we on the permanent sidewall signs slide?
no, we're on commercial, permanent, yeah, permanent sidewall signs.
With Bailey's and Pizzeria?
Correct.
Yeah,
All right.
So I'm just going everywhere, because you had a couple slides on these, so yeah, here's now
There you go,
Bailey's.
there you go.
Bailey's, yeah.
And then here's, the
Yeah, so the
pizzeria.
pizzeria is a question I had, whether it's painted onto the wall, is that a mural? No, it's, I can look at it both ways, it's a pizzeria, you know, it's, but even so, I just measured off, said dead rise would need 8 square foot per linear, per 5 lineal feet, to make that work. So again, if I enveloped there, I could say, fine, I pick 8 as a number,
That's-
right?
Yeah.
yep, I mean, I don't know of any other place that would have anything
And-
come that close, but
And I say this, you know, from a historic district, signage is sometimes what makes a historic district. Unique and graphic and illustrative signage is a real element of historic districts. See ya.
But you see,
Think about it.
he mentioned that that could be considered art, because has nothing to do
It could be.
with their sign. I mean, their name.
The pizzeria.
Yeah, it's just pizzeria.
I thought it looked more like art to me.
And believe it or not, that's really not a historic building, so it
No.
didn't require going through the
Yeah.
historic board for that review.
And we have
The signage
words,
should have gone
right?
through the
You have
zoning board.
words now in the text that deal with painted walls, or whatever. All right. All right, so coming down,
So 8, everybody's good with 8?
Yep.
right,
Okay.
all right, coming down, I don't think there's anything controversial. Window signs, talks about only on the first floor, I think that's fine.
Clarification, Katie, the signs that are in the, whatever, I don't know what it is, the Wendell's Place, next to
Oh.
the coffee shop,
Yeah.
are those window signs? They are, so long as they're within 18 inches in front of or behind the surface, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to.
Yeah,
So he can just move those back and
Right.
he's not a window sign.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
and I can't remember if we have it elsewhere in our text at this point, but part of this needs to be, it's gotta be a business that's open. 'Cause we do deal with, if your business closes, how long your signage can stay.
Is that does he have a business there?
No.
That's my point.
So how do we deal with it, remind me, in
Yeah,
residential?
but he could get around that in 2 flat seconds.
I
To
don't
get a
think we
business
deal- because
license.
Again, if you're in a business in the residential, you generally don't, I'm not gonna go there. In the commercial district.
Okay, but he's in the commercial district.
He's in the commercial.
Right, he's in the commercial
We
district,
have-
got it,
I
right,
know we
okay.
have language in here is that if a business closes, how long that signage can stay before it needs to be
All right.
removed.
All right, he's in the,
I just
I'm
don't
sorry,
remember
I'm sorry,
the-
yes, he's in the commercial district, got it.
Neither does Shannon. I'm looking at her. Come on, say it.
No, but,
No, I'm just right, I want to make sure this guy knows whether or not he has to worry about this statute or not.
But that's where he's going to have to worry about it, because I have held off doing any enforcement on this, but part of it is, there's no business,
Yeah,
there's
but-
nothing he is advertising.
he did, well, okay.
It's not a business. So,
He could get
You're
around
saying
it.
he'll make a business, he'll open up once a week and for 15 minutes.
He doesn't even have to open it at the doors at all. He can have a,
that's fine.
he can have a business that he runs inside that's all internet.
Works for me. Get a business license.
Windows Free Speech Incorporated.
Great.
Right,
So
I'm all for that.
it's not gonna stop him from doing whatever, so.
and the other clarification I had was on the chart that Paul had with the, sorry, I'm getting to it. It's the Buskey's building, those wall signs underneath. That's not a directory sign, right?
I don't know, that's why I had the picture.
Yeah.
It's a 18-inch by 18-inch times 6. And
I think that is a directory sign.
I would say 2, and
Right.
it wouldn't fit our last column on the directory sign.
It doesn't fit the definition of directory sign, but it sure looks like a directory sign.
Yeah,
That's correct.
That's why I
Now, they
asked.
could have easily put right on that wall a sign that had a list of those as opposed to, but they chose whatever.
Yeah,
So in
Right.
the future, that's what we prevent, and it would be put on the wall in some fashion. Right?
which is more standard what you would typically see in a
Correct, that's
city or a
correct.
town.
Right.
I think the easy fix is, and I know I'm jumping ahead, so let's just thumbnail this, is just to strike freestanding from the definition of directory sign. Because freestanding is not attached to a building, and this
Yeah.
seems like a directory sign that is attached to a building.
Yeah,
So under the other column,
Yeah,
this is for Marine, so you know where you're looking. Under the other column in commercial district signs, under definitions, directory sign, strike freestanding.
yeah,
A freestanding sign, take away freestanding.
correct,
yeah, I agree.
correct.
Is that up where we are?
Yep,
All right, so I'm on temporary signs now.
Okay.
And we're talking a size 16 square foot, maximum 3, and I'd use AJ's as an example, right? They have a feathered flag out front, we have a picture of that, and we have 2, A-frames on either side. Now, granted, public right-of-way, we can question or whatever, but to me, the size of those signs are typically 2x3s, 16 square foot would be a 4x4.
I've lost sight of where I am, Paul, just give me a minute.
Okay.
Keep going. I'm looking for AJ's sign, is that correct?
Yeah, or any of
Drizzles.
those
Drizzles is a good one.
A-frame signs.
Any of the A-frames, okay, thank you.
on the same
There we go.
slide.
Is this where I am?
There's certainly less than 16 square foot, and people have had
That's
a
all
number
I'm
of
saying.
those.
That's what I'm seeing.
all the A-frame signs are about the same, right? They're like
Yeah.
2 by 3.
Yeah. Well, you got smaller.
18 by-
If you look at some of them, you go, it's not professional,
Here we go.
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, look at the ones, go back to that slide, you look at the ones on the bottom there, at least the one on the lower left-hand side, it's, you know, questionable as to the professionalism.
Well,
A lot
Then
of this
we
is being
could-
done as a temporary measure due to street work.
yeah, but we could, if the city put up something that directed people down Strawberry, it would address that.
They had that, and it may still be there. They had
They
a
did.
pole with a sign that said drizzles and,
Yeah, they did.
They-
Did they?
At
Yeah.
one point
They
they
did.
did.
yeah.
All right, so here's a
Wonder what
good
happened to it.
case where 3 signs, less than 16 square foot each, to me, that's fine.
I agree.
And the business about being in a road, this is where I would say that's a unusual circumstance that the zoning administrator could be approached and said, hey, I need to do this temporarily because of construction. Is this okay? The only other thing that I have issues with in public right away, that to me is pretty straightforward, but that then is gonna be a question as to,
Well, all those are in the public right away, right there.
Not all of these are.
That's the only thing I could see on temporary being a headache is policing, and that's pretty straightforward. Talking to the business establishment, saying, hey, gotta get it out of public right away.
Yeah.
They'll move it on to the VDOT or whatever, and just,
And we can differentiate if we need to. Yes, VDOT owns all the sidewalks, which are considered, they're public, but
Public,
they're
that's
not
correct.
right-of-ways per se under the definition of a right-of-way.
okay, good,
From
so
a road
what,
system.
okay, that's the right away.
Does that make sense?
All
So
right.
if I need to add some clarifying language in here, I can. So it's really clear on that. So you can have
Yeah,
signs.
let's
you
do
can have
that
signs on the
because,
sidewalk.
Well, you shouldn't be able to have signs on the sidewalk that limit people's ability to
Pass by.
pass by, and that includes people in wheelchairs.
We have a whole issue with the commercial establishment encroaching into the sidewalk issue.
Yeah,
Right now.
we know.
I know.
so, okay, so this, the wording here is not in the public right away. I mean, I can't put it in the street.
Right.
Okay, there's a question. Nor 5 feet from a service drive, travel lane, or adjacent street. I don't know if we have to add more with regards to sidewalks. And that could be added to a whole bunch
Yeah,
of these,
if
right?
it says, or nor 5 feet from a street, then that covers the sidewalks. That
5
covers
feet
the
from a
edge of the
service
sidewalk.
drive, travel lane, or adjacent street. So I can be 5 foot off of a street and right in the middle of a sidewalk.
So we're gonna stop people from putting out signs that say sale today only?
If I have to walk around them,
You have to walk around it.
then I got a problem.
And that's
I put them close to the curb and
And that's-
I don't have
you
to
know,
worry
and
about the sidewalks clear for me.
because, you know, you do have some congestion in some certain places where you don't have it in others, especially where they have large trees. And you have, and then they put a side, sign, you know, that you have a limited, you don't have a huge sidewalk to start off with. So,
It happens on Mason.
I know.
So Katie, do you need to add some words, not so much on the right of way, but the sidewalks?
I gotta think about this, because we have enough, I just can't put it in my head right this second. We do have a chart that hangs in our office that tells us, the VDOT size on all the main commercial streets, what VDOT owns. 75 feet, Mason, I think Peak Street is also 75 feet, some are 60 feet. I need to go look at that again and figure out how I put in wording to that.
With the intent not to block public access down a sidewalk. That's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I don't care if it's on VDOT property. I just want people to be able to walk,
Right.
Right.
skateboard, ride a bike right down the street.
No, because
No.
I'm gonna hit like the next one. If we look at this for just a second. So, yeah, this one, it really isn't in the sidewalk per se. It is just at the edge. You can see it's not equal to the building.
Correct.
Which one is this, Katie?
I'm on,
The mermaid one.
the mermaid, whatever. I don't know which one this is,
Sail,
sorry.
what- what's the sail?
Is that like a sailor?
Wait a minute.
No, that's not like a sailor, that's, the paint your own mermaid,
Oh,
next to the candy store.
I can't read that sign.
It's the.
Oh, I
it's a
see.
Paint your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like they place that, you know, your A-frame sign, it's not really in the sidewalk walkable area
Right.
that people would be traversing. They put it within the interior envelope of the building frame. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I
and-
would say, I would find the placement of that A-frame okay, versus if they moved it out maybe even another 5 feet. That would be interrupting the flow of pedestrian traffic,
would you find this drizzle sign on the right?
right?
I'm sorry, there's two drizzle signs here. There's one that says open, there's one that says
Here.
a tasting shop. Drizzle's a tasting shop. Would that sign be okay if the owner moved it a little more toward the street so as not to impede the flow of traffic?
The, actually,
Yeah.
to me,
Right.
it's the open one that
Right.
impedes the flow of traffic.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because the tasting shop is near that park bench.
bench, and that bench is already blocking.
Right,
so why don't we just say not to impede the flow of traffic?
right.
A foot
Somewhat.
traffic, right?
Okay.
A foot
Yeah.
traffic.
Foot traffic.
So people just go around,
Yep.
people can't get by, move your sign.
Can you not put foot traffic, put pedestrian traffic?
Pedestrian traffic,
Oh, yeah,
Because that
Yeah, yeah,
needs
yeah.
to include
wheelchairs.
wheelchairs and walkers.
right, correct.
walkers.
Okay, okay.
All right. We have, under location, I had a question of no more than one permitted sign shall be displayed. Now, we changed what's permitted and what's not, but that sentence, I don't understand. What we were intending, and has that since changed?
Well, we talked about it the last time.
Oh.
For example, you said, like, the corner of Fig and Randolph, there's usually more than one sign there from the corner.
So that you can only agree to place one, other business sign on your property. You can't do 4.
All right, I
I
think
think that's what
the,
we meant.
what I'm having trouble with is the word permitted. Right now, we're saying no permit is needed for any temporary sign that we just talked about, which is, I'm fine with. Do I need to just take out the word permitted there? And then do I run into a problem if I have Salt and Sand and AJ's put something on Peachtree Books property? Are we gonna say, oh, wait, you can't do that because only one per lot?
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
the way the wording says right now.
Right.
And is
Yes.
that what we want?
That was the original intent, was that, so that we wouldn't have
Yeah, hold
Peach Street
on.
renting out their corner to 25 businesses.
Do you have do you have
Well, I have a
concern with that?
concern
Yeah,
that Peachtree Books can have 2 signs, one for AJ's and one for Salt and Sand. You know, they put their A-frames on Peachtree Books there. That would be 2 signs, 2 temporary signs on a lot.
Yeah, so we said no,
right. I thought
So
we
but
said
if
we would have
AJ's had
one.
them on the sidewalk, that's not on their lot.
Oh, that's how you're differentiating, okay, that
Yeah, yeah.
may be the clarification.
Yeah.
Right.
Is
That
it
was my
has, it has
reflection,
to
too.
be their property, and they don't own the sidewalk.
Okay, okay.
Inside the little fence. Is there a fence? No,
No,
no, there's
because I
vegetation.
step over the little
There's
bushes every,
vegetation there,
All right, Katie, do you see that? We're limiting one per lot, but in the example I brought, the lot for Peachtree Books doesn't include the sidewalks that somebody could put 2 on,
As long as it doesn't.
as long as it doesn't impede
Pedestrian.
the
Traffic.
pedestrian traffic.
yeah.
And I'd strike the word permanent then. We're not talking about
so no more than one sign shall be displayed per lot.
And they're reworking that sidewalk there.
And again, the lot is what
Yeah.
the actual lot's boundary is.
Right.
So if Peachtree Books decides to move one into the little walled-off parking area, that's all they can do, is just one for Salt and Sand or Ajax.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
So, just a clarification while it's on my mind, Katie, under permit required, we say no. The draft in sections 3B, and I believe, yes, 3D, says an application for a temporary sign shall state the dates intended. And then the D says a permit for a temporary sign shall state its duration. So again, just to avoid confusion to the public, I don't want somebody to say, well, the chart says no, but the ordinance says I have to,
That's a good
seems to
point.
imply that I have to submit an application for my temporary
I
sign
don't
with all
think you
these
want
requirements. So we
people-
should just strike that language out.
I agree with that. We don't need people applying for temporary signs, do we?
No.
No, so take that last sentence out of 3B1 and take the last sentence out of, or I'm sorry, the penultimate sentence out of 3BD.
I'm not gonna fully strike out a B1, I'll come back to it here in a second. I agree with the duration there.
Okay, so that, and that was my follow-up. Did
So-
we have a reason for having that
The
language
only
in there?
reason is we have created, working with the town, what we're calling seasonal, and I can't remember if they would be treated as these events, the town events.
Right,
And so, yes, we are asking them to get a permit so that we know that the signs that are going up to advertise the, can't even think of a town event right now.
Festive Fridays.
Festive Fridays, yes. So, how do you want to handle those?
Do we need people to get a permit for those?
We included as part of getting a permit as a whole, it's a subsection of that permit from the town.
Well, then I don't
what the
think it needs to be
signage
in,
Associated with it.
then I don't think it needs to be in the sign ordinance if it's in the, if it's a requirement of the permit to have the event.
Well, again, it's a town policy of how they're doing all those event permitting.
my point is just that people need to be on notice as to what the rules are.
That's correct, so.
And now
I'm
we-
fine with striking, I really don't wanna have to get applications for all these temporary signs, I don't.
Okay,
I just don't wanna forget, somewhere I've still got this whole category of these larger kind of event things that are happening, that there needs to be some regulation, how we're addressing those. Maybe nothing needs to be addressed in our sign ordinance, it's all handled through that town policy.
That's what I think. It should be, you're applying for the permits to have the event. As part of that, you have to put your signs in. You have to request the sign.
so you do have to, you do have to
It
get a
doesn't come from
permit
me
for
at
that
all.
kind of sign.
I helped, Julie Pruitt,
Right.
who oversees those functions. We just helped her craft a sign and a standard for it, and that's part of getting a permit for a town event.
So somebody gets the permit, there's a line in there that says,
That they're filling out a form about signs and
On the
size
form.
and where they're gonna place them all and
Yeah.
how long they're gonna be up for, that kind of stuff. So
So-
I'm fine striking out of this ordinance, I just wanted to make you aware, there's still that requirement sitting
Okay.
somewhere else in the town policy.
so this,
Yes.
okay, so it's superfluous.
Yes,
I
So
agree.
just strike out
okay,
the last sentence in 3B1
okay,
to make it consistent with the chart.
yep.
All right, let's get through the last and we'll call it quits. The other has a whole bunch, and I came across the canopy that I added definition into it here. And that's our medical
Right,
office there.
right.
Permits, yes, in these particular cases. And then for the size, directory 1. Now, projecting signs, I have a table for projecting signs. If you want to just scroll through any one of these until you get to a table, we got 3 tables.
Permit front,
What's that one?
frontage wall
No.
sign. Sidewalls, awnings.
All right, let's talk awnings, since this is one of the criteria for filling in. So awnings, I went through, and this is the lettering on the awning itself. And again, I'm not getting too crazy about this. I'd pick, again, 12 square feet. And I'd feel comfortable with awnings.
12.
Anybody disagree with that? No. All right, hit the next table.
I have a question with regard to projecting signs.
Well, hold on. Look, on that same table, the entrance canopy, I'm leaving it up to the zoning administrator.
Oh, okay.
There was no way you're going to set criteria for that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
Okay.
let's go to the next table
Okay,
and projecting signs.
Okay.
there we go.
So, the definition of projecting sign, so it's not yeah, you see the definition of projecting sign at the top. It's not, I don't think it accurately reflects what a projecting sign is. Any sign other than a wall, awning, or marquee sign affixed to a building and supported only by the wall on which it is mounted. So I went and I looked at some other general definitions of projecting sign, and the language that seems to be missing from this definition that I think would be helpful, just so we don't get into like confusion about what's, is my sign a projecting sign or some other type of sign? It's a pretty simple fix, I think. These definitions said, supported by a wall or building and projecting away from that wall or building, right?
Could we just say, and supported only by the vertical surface on which it is mounted? Because if it was on a column or on a whatever, it would be a vertical surface, right?
Well, you got some horizontal, because I broke
Yeah.
it up into
We
two.
do have horizontal.
Yeah.
One I did per linear foot, and the other one is just projecting by size.
Yeah, my only suggestion is you just need to include the word, like projecting from or the phrase, in the definition of projecting sign, because again, it says projecting sign,
All right,
but
so
the language
give us
doesn't,
your definition. I have no problem with
Sure.
changing
That's
the
fine.
definition.
means any sign other than a wall, awning, or marquee sign affixed to a building. What do I do? Affixed to a building by a wall, I'm sorry. Means any sign affixed, I got it, supported by a building or wall and projecting away from that building or wall, however you want to massage it.
So then, Paul's projecting signs parallel aren't projecting signs.
No.
And
They're hanging
and
signs.
they need something else. You tell me what it is. I put it there.
Hanging signs, right?
Hanging.
Okay, so you'd have to have a hanging sign definition then too.
Or we could just
I
say,
lumped it into projecting for lack of finding something else. I really don't care. So that's why I said parallel and it's perpendicular to the building.
I will look at my book of zoning definitions and see if they've got something in there
okay,
on this one. Okay.
all right.
Okay.
All right, so look at our table, and the first one is perpendicular to the building, and again, to be acceptable, I have what is there. Bailey's, to me, is an outlier. We have a picture of the finger pointing towards
Yeah.
this,
We talked about that when we reviewed it, and we knew it would get grandfathered in, but that's the kind of thing we're trying to avoid in the future.
Advance is the largest, and again, this is just a guesstimate from being able to measure from a distance. So excluding those two, I could go 9 or 10 square foot, 10 to a square foot, right?
Yeah, 10 seems reasonable.
Perpendicular would be 10. And then right below it was the parallel, and I just, again, measured there, I can go up to, I'll say 5 to envelope.
Yeah, that's fine.
5?
Yeah.
So again, this is under the dimensional information, so at this point I have for awnings, 12 square feet, for projecting perpendicular signs, 10 feet, projecting parallel signs, 5 feet.
Yep.
Okay,
10, 5, 12. Right,
okay?
Okay,
all right, and I'd call it quits. You answered all the questions I had relative to
On
this
Commercial.
on the commercial.
Everybody good on commercial district?
yep,
Yes.
The others will follow along now that commercial is hammered out. And we'll wait till next go around. I'd like to end up after, well, before the next meeting, going through our text and looking to see, recommend what gets eliminated. The changes that we agree to, and then what gets eliminated to remove duplication. And to ensure whatever the text says and would take it away, that the table accurately reflects that, right?
yeah.
Maybe a little bit more succinctly, but not to take anything away from the text.
Okay, so,
Next meeting's February 21st.
No, we
Yeah.
still got some, oh,
I think that is our next meeting, February, say it again. Lost my agenda.
yeah.
Yeah, February 21st. So we would take up Harbor District chart, take up then the industrial. I think that's it. And then we do that text review to the charts that we've now agreed to, and to see if we have any inconsistency, and let's fix it.
Yeah, the one thing, if you mark up the text in any fashion for the next meeting, I would eliminate the comment column
Next regular session is.
where it says, I added a title, I added color,
You guys are
because
good
all of
for
a
me to
sudden,
start doing that, because I don't want anybody to say, well, I didn't see that you added this in.
but you color code the particular text that's added and deleted.
Now we are. We finally got that working, yes.
All I'm saying is I had to print out 15 pages worth because it was all half the column.
I understand. So, we can remove the tracking of changes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah.
Of comments on the side.
Right,
It should
That's-
hopefully still keep it in the text.
that's what I'm asking, yeah.
Okay, so are we good now on that? Can we move on to the remainder of
Yes.
the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, so we're on number 8, report of officers, committees, I'm sorry,
We just did
standing
that.
staff reports.
So I do have just a small update as to where we are in a few items. I have signed off on the Rosenwald School Project site plan, and that is moving forward, and that has gotten all the reviews from the Harbor Area Review Board, Town Council, Department of Transportation, DEQ, Stormwater, and erosion sediment control by our third-party inspectors. So that project is now going full guns on the Rosenwald.
It's so
School
good to
building.
see.
It's not that I have actually gotten subdivision applications. I think I told you about them last month. I'm still in the process of reviewing those. I have 2 of those pending in my office of subdivision applications. One is for Village, L, J, K, I don't remember which village number it is.
And
N, I have N in, and I have the one that Beacon Homes is doing for them. I think
That's-
that's
I think it's
J.
J.
Yes. So those are in the midst of my review, 2 subdivision applications in the Bay Creek development project.
N is the
Is the-
Bayside too,
Oh,
isn't it?
N is the
Base-
original farmstead,
Oh, okay.
no, they said two's already
Scott,
approved.
the Scott Farm,
the Scott
Yeah.
farm, thank you.
okay.
Yes. We've had nothing for the BZA, nothing for harbor development right now, nothing has come in for wetlands or coastal sand dune. I did want to make you aware, Historic has approved the relocation of the house at 645 Mason. And in fact, that came in as of Friday. I looked at it today. We have the site plan has come in for the bank project to locate at 645, 643, and 645 Mason. So that is now in the works. I don't have the date yet as to when the house will actually be moved off that property. That is still being coordinated with all the various utilities. We're hoping it will happen by the end of February, but I will keep you posted, because we don't move a house that often in town, so
Right.
that's gonna be.
Right.
It's
another-
called
Fun.
Washington, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna go all the way down Mason Avenue, come up, go across Bay Avenue, and then come up Washington Avenue.
But remain on Washington,
It
right?
will, it will be on,
600 block.
600 block of Washington
Okay.
is the lot where it's going.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, one more thing is, some of you have gotten some emails, or all of you have gotten emails, maybe you haven't looked at them yet, but we've had a few changes to our zoning calendar of zoning ordinance amendments and where we are on that. So Maureen has done a revision to our calendar based upon things that have happened. We are still set for a work session with town council at the end of February. That has not changed. I do some things in my life. I'm a little late in getting the zoning text ordinance document back out to you. You're gonna have it by Friday. What has changed in significance is we've pushed the public hearing in which this will be coming forward. It's now pushed to April. On the prior calendar, we were trying to do it into March.
Yeah.
We've pushed it out more so because I need to notify 4 property owners of zoning map amendment changes that would be happening on their property, because we're proposing to eliminate the RE district, the residential estate district. And I'm just having a little hard time squeezing everything in to go meet with the property owners as well. And then I have to go to council and get a resolution of intent for each of those map rezonings that we're proposing. So that's a step I forgot to build in, and I gotta go to town council to get them to give me resolutions first before I can start the public hearing process. Anyway, so that has pushed the calendar a little bit. I don't think that's a bad thing either, so that we're pushing this to April 15th. We have not heard from all of, I think we heard from some of you that date worked for you. So if you do have an issue, please let us know of April 15th. If that doesn't work, we are polling right now town council, if that also works for them, for this to be a joint public hearing. So I don't know where we are, and Maureen was not in today to check all of her emails, so we'll have a better idea hopefully by tomorrow if we've heard from council, if that works as a joint public hearing date. And the big thing is, the town council has not set a date as to when they would take action on this. So I know, in our prior calendar, we were hoping that we would be able to advance a recommendation relatively quickly, maybe the same night of the public hearing, and then push that on to the town council to take action at their next scheduled meeting. At this point, we've left it open-ended. So this body can take the time it needs, relative to developing your recommendation following the public hearing, advance that recommendation to town council, and when that comes, then they will book this on whatever available meeting comes for them on their schedule. So there's no rush from this body. You're trying to meet a date for town council. Okay? Everybody good with that? Okay?
Is that it?
That's all I had as extra.
Okay, so number 10, announcements. Next meetings, we have a February 21st. Our next work session, that is a go.
Yes.
And the town
So,
council,
so our next work session, and this is new for Libby, I don't think we consulted you along the way. February 21st, it's a Wednesday. Again, this would be 6 PM. Here in this building, and again, we hold our work sessions to 2 hours, or we do our best to.
and we have the town council strategic retreat on Saturday, and that's
Yeah.
from 10 to 1, I think.
10 to 3. It's over now. They've confirmed it's gonna be at the YMCA building, the second building, the gymnasium, thank you.
On the 24th?
On the 24th, it's a Saturday.
Yep.
I've now learned this morning, it's, of course, Planning Commission, Town Council. Not every department head is being required to attend. I am, the Finance Department is, Public Works is, all the others are optional to attend. They've also extended invites to 5 community representation groups. Main Street, the Historic District Civic League, the Vacation Rental Association,
Citizens of Central Park.
Citizens for Central Park, and there's one more.
Yeah,
There's
okay.
5.
Okay.
I can't remember the 5th one. Main Street will be there as well, so. And the Bay Creek Homeowners Association. So they wanted a representation from Bay Creek as well. So there will be food brought in as part of this, and snackage and drinks, et cetera. But yes, they expect this to be a working session. The town council did get a full report of the community survey results at their last meeting. I think they were pleased with those results and some of the information that came out. There were a little bit of some, new information that they gleaned from it, in particular relative to short-term rentals. So I think that will be a part of our conversation during this thing of setting the goals for what we're gonna do with short-term rentals. In particular, most of the people were not in favor of a cap on short-term rentals, so,
What was the percentage response?
581.
thank you.
It's good.
I was not at last Thursday's council meeting, so I don't know.
That is on the homepage of the town now.
Yeah, it's condensed into a slide. They did very, very well in putting all the material on slides. So look for the tab for slides and
Okay.
scoot through them.
So we have moving on, we have a joint work session with the town council on February 29th. That's Tuesday, and then the last day of the month. And then we have a regular planning commission meeting on Tuesday, March 5th, and then the joint public hearing with town council on Monday, March 18th. That's not,
That's changed.
that's changed.
That's the one that's
Okay,
moved to
that's the one
April.
that's changed. That's the one that's April now, right?
Yeah.
This agenda got finished
April
before we
15th.
changed the calendar
So the
again.
March 18th is the one that's,
Yeah.
okay.
That's now April.
All right.
I will tell you at this point, the deadline is passed for any applications to come in under conditional use permits or otherwise that would require your review. So I have no public hearings anticipated for your March calendar, for your March regular meeting. So we may or may not need that meeting. It depends on how we're doing on zoning ordinance work. Okay?
All right.
Bill,
Do I have-
quick question, quick item. There's a number of bills going through legislation right now that John Hosey, myself, and the mayor are following. The mayor has actually provided comments during some of those bill presentations. But ADUs, they may be establishing at a state level the requirement of ADUs by right and establishing criteria which everybody then has to follow. So ADUs is a subject, good old short-term rentals is a subject, and the collection of tot tax and registration at a state level for tot tax. Those were bills that were addressed today. Thank goodness one was laid on the table, and the other one was sent to appropriations. But you can see the organizations that are lining
Yeah.
up behind these babies.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
So
Thank
we
you,
won't be
Paul.
paying top taxes for Virginia and local.
Yeah, right.
So
I think it'll never
I
happen.
say that, I'm saying that truthfully, because we already pay a hefty one for
Yeah.
us.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a
Let me add a
motion.
quick
One
question.
quick question. I know we approved the agenda. Did we approve the minutes at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah.
We did, okay.
When they
Make a
do the
motion,
consent
we adjourn.
agenda, they grab it.
I second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Thank you.
Thank you.